In the American West, we have a lot of legendary highways. Interstate 5, Highway 101, the Going to the Sun Highway, even Route 66. But right now, I'm traveling on a highway that most people don't even know exists. It stretches 465 miles from the Pacific coast to the foothills of Idaho. It moves over 4.5 million metric tons of cargo while using less fuel and emissions than any car, truck, or train in the world. And it's built on infrastructure that benefits the food you eat and the energy that powers your home.
This is Marine Highway 84, the longest inland waterway on the West Coast.
Historically, having access to a long navigable river is often the difference between a region's prosperity or poverty. And here in North America, we have a ton of these kinds of rivers. The biggest is the mighty Mississippi, which connects the Gulf of Mexico to ports as far north as Minneapolis and as far east as Pittsburgh. There's also the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Hudson River, and countless estuaries and intercoastal waterways connecting ports with global markets. But on the West Coast, it's very different. Other than ports connected to San Francisco Bay and Puget Sound, there's really only one large inland waterway connected to the Pacific, the Columbia Snake River Navigation Channel. This is more than just a big river. It's designated as part of the federal system of marine highways, and it's central to the economy and environment of the Pacific Northwest. But the River Highway is not without its controversy. Activist groups have claimed that the dams that create the waterway are old and outdated, and that the benefits they provide are small and even easily replaceable. And so, I decided to see for myself. I connected with Shaver Transportation, a nearly 150-year-old family-owned shipping company that operates tug and barge service on the Columbia and Snake Rivers. They generously offered to let me and two of my sons ride along and see what transporting grain on the River Highway looks like up close.
We are at Central Ferry. Hi there.
Good morning. How you doing?
My name's Adam.
Adam?
We're your stowaways today.
All right. John Witchy.
John, are you the captain?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
John, great to meet you.
Hey,
Hey, how you doing?
good to meet you. My name's Adam.
Mike,
Mike,
How are you
good
doing?
to meet you.
this is Justin.
Yes, we met downstairs. Very cool. So this is your shift.
Yes,
Awesome.
this is my shift, sitting here doing nothing while the barge loads.
What are we waiting for? What are they doing over there?
They are loading one of our barges. It looks like soft white wheat, judging from what's spilled on the deck
That's mostly
there.
what we grow out here.
That is, yes, 46 is one of our so-called magnums. It's 300 by 42, about a 14-foot maximum draft. And actually, you can stuff a little over 4,000 tons in it.
4,000 tons?
Yeah.
So 14 feet of draft. So you're saying that there's another 14 feet of boat beneath the surface there.
Yes. Hey, you can let her go whenever you got there.
Okay, Ollie.
My push knees, the big huge rubber things sticking up in the air on the bow, are going to fit on the outside of those push knees with maybe like an inch to play with, or it'll be pretty snug.
Wow, that was amazing. There wasn't even a tap.
Now we're going to connect the boat to the barge. What we use is these lines right here. We call them lines, and they're one of the strongest fibers on the planet. So this line, and then those two lines on that side and that side
Cool.
is what connects to the barges.
Let's see how this works.
I have to make sure it's not going to get snagged on anything. So they used to do all this with wires, and you can imagine how heavy that is.
Oh, okay.
The starboard side's good. Alright. And port side. That's how we connect the tugboat to the barge. So now what I'll do is I'll get draft marks to see if the barge is level or not. I got 13.4 on port stern. All right. 12.7 starboard bow and 13.5 port bow. Now when we take up, before we take off, we always sound it and see if there's any water in each of the voids. You take this sounding tape here, we'll drop this to the very bottom of the barge, and then we'll see if there's any water in there. We'll notify the captain and then pump out water if we need to. Dry.
Do that at all four corners?
Yeah, and then all the way down the barge as well. So we do every single one. So this is the deep side, and there's like no water at all. So yeah, looking good. Ready whenever you are, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead on there.
Okay.
Oh, dude, way to flip those lines off the dolphin.
That's right. That should be senior deckhand. You got about 16 feet hanging past. So right now I'm just telling him what's going on because he's pivoting off this dolphin.
Sure.
And about 17 hanging past, no way up against. And sternway's checked up, 6 feet hanging past the upper tire. And he's so good, it's like we're not coming ahead, going astern, so it makes my life easy.
Okay, so we started out on the far side of the river in Garfield County. They have a small terminal there with a grain elevator. We picked up our first barge, and now we're headed across the river to pick up our second.
$40 to get some coverage on her and 18 off. 20 to go by, 16 off. 7. 2.5. We got 1.5 off.
Looks good to me.
Okay, I'll throw that wire on in another 35. I'm gonna go to the first house cleat. 2.5. And foot off, and we'll throw the eye on here, another 13. We'll be on another 8.
Be into it. 5, 4, 3, 2.
You're on your A game, Mike.
Oh man.
It's kind of a little scary if you're not used to it. Everything's moving, there's a lot of weight. That's why I just ride the brake. If we're going fast like that, I can kind of slack it a little bit, so then I can give some of that pressure off. If I just were to put the dog in it, it could just explode that wire. Now we'll build our toe. So these are called breasts. We'll get a couple breasts on this side. And a lot of times they like to get like a long breast. Long is strong is what they say.
Now the other side?
Yep. Oh, this wire is stiff.
Oh, we got 2 breasts on the bow. Did you want 3?
Oh, no, I think 2 should be plenty.
I'll crank down on all these winches if you want to start sounding.
So walk me through what you're looking at right now as you're pulling out.
I'm just making sure I don't get off that dolphin. I'm using that dolphin as my fulcrum, swinging out so that we can drive out of here. These barges are heavy, so it takes a little bit of time.
Starting and stopping this thing must be an absolute pain.
Yeah, we have to at least give ourselves a half mile to stop. But
All right, we are now underway, leaving Central Ferry, and we're headed downriver towards Little Goose Dam. We just got passed by an American cruise line ship. I tried doing the whole honk your horn thing, but I don't think they saw me. Apparently the recreation vehicles actually get first dibs on the lock passage, which I guess makes sense. They're going like twice the speed. So yeah, here is the tugboat Lincoln. This is our home for the week. This is maybe the best kitchen view I've ever seen. So is being a good cook like required to work on the river?
You know, a lot of times guys say you need 2 out of 3 things. Just be somebody good to live on a boat with, be a good deckhand, and be a good cook. So you have to have 2 of 3 in order to make it. So
Is barge traffic seasonal?
right now it's actually kind of a slow time. It's just before harvest, and then they've pretty much gotten rid of all the big piles of last year's harvest.
Oh, so it just piles up.
Sometimes there'll be huge stacks, piles and piles and piles of grain.
That's wild.
So you'll see that later this fall at all these places. And that's good for us because then that means that'll keep us busy all until lock closure for maintenance, after lock closure. And then it gets us to the slow. Spring is usually a lot slower. Late summer, it just starts going crazy. So usually.
I just can't get over how peaceful it is out here on the river. The water level is obviously quite a bit different just in the last 50 years, but other than that, this canyon is virtually unchanged since the day that Lewis and Clark came through with the Corps of Discovery in 1805. Very little development, very little in the way of large-scale ranching. These hillsides are more or less untouched. This is some of the least seen and least explored pieces of land in the Pacific Northwest. The very front of the 2-barge tow here on the Lower Snake River behind Little Goose Dam. These barges are so much bigger up close in person than they look on video. If you were to take just one of these barges and set it down in a regulation-sized football field, the ends of the barge would touch both end zones. And a fully loaded tow features 4 of them. So it's almost 9 o'clock on Monday evening, and we are just approaching Little Goose Dam. This is number 7 of 8 dams on the Columbia and Snake Rivers that provide slackwater navigation from the Lower Columbia by Portland, Vancouver, all the way to Lewiston, Idaho. Without this system of dams, year-round navigation of this size would be impossible on the rivers. For one thing, the water level would drop far too low during the dry summer months to allow vessels this big to navigate the rivers. But in the springtime, you'd have the opposite problem, with much too high of flows and much bigger rapids than you could practically navigate with something this size. Before the dams, river travel was possible, but it was a very narrow window and extremely dangerous. At one time, it was not uncommon for there to be loss of life on the river due to high water. Thanks to these dams, we are able to safely and reliably transport goods like timber, petroleum, fertilizer, and grain all year round. As huge as these lock chambers are at the dams, the barges themselves are just as big. In fact, 4 of these standard-sized barges almost exactly fills up the lock chambers, 650 feet long. Once the tow is all the way in the lock chamber, there'll only be inches of room on all sides, which means the captain has to slowly and very precisely thread the needle to get this inside the lock chamber without bumping into the sides. And somehow they do it every time. Just a moment ago, as we entered the lock chamber, I noticed the engines had to start pushing a lot harder. What was happening there?
well, we reach a point where they have a sill there that's only 15 or 16 feet deep, so we have to push over that. We're actually trying to displace the water that's in front of us in the lock chamber, and it has to come back underneath.
Oh, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the open river, the displaced water can push to the side.
Yeah.
But then once you're in the lock chamber, there's nowhere for it to go.
No.
Oh, that's interesting. So like, you're not just slowly trying to slide in here, you have a lot more friction as you have to push ahead all that water.
We have 14 feet or almost a 14-foot draft, so that displaces a lot of water. Yeah, it depends on the pool. If the pool level up here is lower, sometimes we only have a little bit of clearance over the sill.
So now we're inside the lock chamber here at Little Goose Dam, and the upstream gate just closed. Now that the chamber is isolated from the reservoir above, they're able to fully drain this chamber here and take us down to the lower river just like an elevator. Being around these enormous structures never gets old for me. There's so many benefits happening from working rivers simultaneously at spots like Little Goose Dam. We're inside the lock chamber right now, which is facilitating the cleanest form of freight transportation in the world. And right there is the power station, generating clean hydropower with no additional CO2 going into the atmosphere. Clean, reliable, renewable, dispatchable. It's places like this that power entire cities. So we just dropped below the sidewalk level of the outside of the lock chamber. We've gone to feeling like we're on top of the dam to now we're sinking down inside of it. These chambers are huge.
All these lock tenders are pretty fast up here. They don't mess around.
That upstream sill gate that we talked about earlier, as you can see, there's really not a lot of clearance as the boat comes in, just 14 to 16 feet underwater. But then once it passes over that point, boom, 100 feet of depth underneath. Here at these navigation locks, they've got two different styles of doors. One kind is vertical lift, where the door just lifts straight up like an elevator. But these are my favorite. These are the King Kong style doors. They open up like the big door at the entrance to Jurassic Park. Solid steel, 100 feet tall, just swinging open on hinges like the doors to an old-time saloon. So cool.
Okay, Lincoln, you're all clear to exit.
I just heard the engines rev. So what's going through your head as you take us out of this lock?
Oh, I usually start out slow. It doesn't do any good to get in a hurry. Sometimes the lock tender will actually leave the drain valves open, so as we go out, we'll push water out, and the water will actually get sucked in behind us. If they remember to do it, it's actually helped pretty good, but if they shut those valves off, then we're trying to push all that water out, and then same thing in reverse, it has to run back in.
Oh yeah, so you can feel the whole thing shudder. You're pushing against all that water exiting the lock chamber. Okay, now we're down to 33 feet.
The boat is actually probably 8.5, 9 feet. So 11 is on top of that.
Oh,
so
okay. And we're passing through the door sill right now.
There, come from 14 feet.
14, oh, 12,
Yeah.
11 feet. Oh wow, so that does get narrow in a hurry.
Yeah.
So when you're pushing on the water in front of you, it has to backwash underneath the vessel. Oh yeah, that's a lot. So there we go. We just finished locking through Little Goose Dam. We lost about 100 feet of elevation going from the upper pool to the lower. One dam down, 6 more to go.